As children, we look at things with completely different eyes. Um, we let's just say we have rose-colored glasses on, and so when we look at people, you know, we obviously don't see the whole picture, right? We don't have the capacity to yet, right? Our brain is supposedly developing, right, until like 25 or 26, right? And then that's when it stops, right? Um, and although I think new neural pathways can still form at any age, right? And so maybe it's always developing, you know? But, anyways, but okay. So, because of that, because you're not able to comprehend or see the entire picture yet or really understand. Oh, there's a spider on my phone. Anyways, but because you're not able to see like the entire picture just yet, right? And um, so in turn, oh my gosh, the spider is like climbing on my phone. Hold on. it's it's a very small spider, but still. Anyways, I'm not afraid of spiders at all, but I don't know. I don't want them on me. If one gets on me, then I have a problem with that. But I'm like, other than that, I'm not too afraid of them. But anyway, so yeah, so this message, right, or video is about this particular video is about how uh, predators, right, or narcissistic individuals can hide for years and years and years, okay, and they can fool most people, especially people uh, that are superficial. I'm not saying, um, well, many people are superficial, right? They just look on the surface. They don't take the time to really get to know someone. And sometimes as a child, that's not your fault, right? Because, like I said, your brain is not fully developed yet, right? And so you don't have the ability to recognize a snake for what it is, right? And so, guys, when I was a child, right? And it's just an example when it comes to my own family. When I was a child, right, I had a grandma, and she was my absolute favorite grandma in the world, okay? I loved her so much, and she was just the nicest, the sweetest grandma ever. And so I grew up believing that. And, you know, of course, my bond to her grew stronger, right? She was always there for me. Um, and she acted like the nicest grandma, right? She gave me things. And for a kid, right, more often than not, kids mistaken this uh, as love, right? Giving you things. And we all have our own love languages as well, right? And so if your language is especially like gift giving, or then you will feel extremely good when that happens, right? Mine isn't, right? But still, um, so my grandma, right? She would give me things, and uh, I really, really loved her for it, and not just for it, of course, obviously not for it, for her giving me gifts, but I really did appreciate the fact that she was like, she always fed us, right? She always cooked for us also. And, is, when we didn't have anything to eat, right? And she didn't know about it, right? Because nobody knew that we were struggling, not even my mom, Um, she might have known actually, but she always tried to send money, right? And to us, right, when we were growing up with another family. But I don't think anyone knew that there was a period in our life where we struggled with food, and we didn't have anything to eat. And so, but every Saturday and Sunday we would go to our grandmother's house, right? And we would like eat all of her food, as children, right? Children tend to be a little bit selfish, right? And especially if you have like hungry children, right? So we would come to her house and like eat her food basically, and she would give us food too, so that was really sweet and nice of her, and I never forgot that, and so growing up, like I said, my grandma was just a absolute favorite. I just loved her, and just for her, right? I thought that I knew her because she just always showed us kindness and empathy, right? But guys, guess what? When I grew up and as an adult, right, I actually got to know her. I got to know the real her, right? And most people don't do that when they get older, okay? They don't do that. And you need to do that. You need to get to know your grandparents, especially, because in order to understand why your parents are the way that they are, you need to understand the root of why they're like that, and that root is their parents, right? So they're like that, they behave the way that they behave mostly because of their parents, because that's how they were raised, right? Because they picked up those patterns, that programming from their parents. So you always need to get to know um, your grandparents really, really well. And so, understanding my grandparents all over again and looking at them as they were, not with rose colored glasses that I used to have on as a child, right? As a child, it's not your fault, right? That's normal, right? But when you get older, you need to reevaluate and you need to get to know your great grandparents, your grandparents, right? Your aunts, everyone, okay? So you can. Yeah, assess. You can assess. Are they good people? Are they bad people? What kind of spirit are they carrying? Um, what are they like, right? Are they really as nice as I used to think that they were, right, as a child? So don't bring a child's picture into an adult picture. It doesn't fit. It doesn't fit. It shouldn't fit. You are different. You grew up. You got smarter, right? You gained experience, so you can understand things better. You can learn to get to know people, right? So get to know people, and more often than not, guys, you will see the snake for what it is if you dive deep and if because, like for example, my grandma, she chose not to pretend with me. Eventually, her mask started slipping, and I called her out on it too, and she got really angry, and basically I realized that she was a very big narcissist, and she would get look at like young girls, and even me, she would look at me too, right? With so much jealousy in her eyes at certain times, and I would see that, and I was like, wow, okay, so. And she would like check out like young girls, right, with like jealousy, right? I was once at the beach with her, right, and she looked at the girls there, and they were like teens, and I was like, "You're a grandma," and she would always paint this picture of herself as this wise woman, right? As someone who is wise, and she would try to like convince us of it too, right? She would. Narcissists, what they do is they cannot stop bragging about themselves, bragging, bragging, bragging. I'm this, I'm that, right? It's one thing. Sharing is okay. Sharing is fine, right? And being proud of your achievements, your accomplishments, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're constantly building yourself up, bragging, bragging, bragging about the things that you have, the things that you've done, uh, you know, what you are, what you're like, right? It's like you're trying to convince yourself, your own self, that you're this when you probably know that it's not the case, right? And so, yeah, so her actions eventually, sooner or later, they reveal themselves. And, I later on, as I've gotten to know her, I realized why she was even after me, right? Why she was helping me. It wasn't because of the goodness of her heart, right? Because she wanted to, but because she knew I was in a vulnerable position, and she wanted to steal my power, my life force. Because it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter whether they come from your family or not. In most cases, family is like the most dangerous, because you trust them the most, right? And so later on, my cousin fell into her trap, and I warned my cousin about it. But I think she already started a smear campaign behind my back. So I'm not surprised if, like, she told my brother nasty things, right? And he probably believed her, and everyone else, basically, right? But it wasn't true. And she told a whole bunch of lies to my cousin, and then actually my cousin, he told me about it, and I was like, what? Like, uh, I didn't clean the apartment when I left? Are you kidding me? I took like 2 weeks. I cleaned it like 2 weeks ahead. I even bought like new towels and like soap, and she said that it was completely dirty. And I was just shocked, right? I was shocked because it was the first time that I actually like something like this has happened with my grandma. And also eventually over time, like I said, narcissists, they get worse with time, right? And so she used to always be this person who would keep her promises, right? And um, she didn't in my case, right? And she made a huge promise to me, and then when she didn't get that energy that she was expecting from me, right? That my life force, basically, right? When she didn't get my compliance, right? I told her, grandma, I'm leaving, right? So I'm not gonna stay in this place. Sorry, I'm gonna get my own place. I'm gonna leave, right? She got pissed off, like really pissed off. She didn't show it initially, but then she did. And more often than not, narcissists show themselves passively aggressively, or they just begin to withdraw anything that they promised. And so there are always strings attached, and they always tell you also, they always tell on themselves. Like, for example, she would tell me things like, oh, well, if something is offered to you, nothing is for nothing, right? So if something is offered to you, you should always decline, right? If you don't want to be indebted to them. Like, and I said, well, what, because people always want something. And I was thinking, like, and I told her actually, I think I did tell her that too. I was like, well, grandma, shouldn't people be giving from their hearts? Like, you know, I usually, if I give, I just give, right? Like, I don't expect anything back. So I think the same about other people too. Um, and and so of course I learned as I've gained experience, right? And as I've dealt with people, right? I learned that this is not the case. Sometimes people give because there are strings attached, and they expect your energy, they expect your life force, they think they can buy that, right? And more often than not, if you don't have the finances, it will be your life force, it will be your energy, it will be your power, basically. They want that power, they're trying to buy that power by giving you something physical, something financial, right? And so, anyways, guys, be careful with narcissists, okay? They're very dangerous, and they can mask themselves for years, like such as the case with my grandma, right? She was my favorite grandma, guys. She was my absolute favorite grandma, and I loved her so much. And so this realization, it really hit me hard, guys. I was very disappointed, and I was very hurt. And it was hard to accept. It was very hard to accept. It was painful to accept, that she was also a narcissist. But of course, it makes sense because my mom is, right? And so, who made my mom, right? Who raised her? In most cases, a narcissist will raise a narcissist, okay? Unless there's like a black sheep in the family, right? If it's someone who is pretty easy to manipulate, then they're more likely to become a narcissist too, okay? So it depends on the person, it depends on the child, right? But usually in the narcissistic dynamic, family dynamic, you have the golden child and you have the black sheep, right? And so there's one child who gets the special treatment, right? but they end up paying for their with their internal qualities, like they because they have to remain silent, they have to comply, they end up not speaking out, right? They end up losing their confidence because they're not speaking out, right? But because they're not standing up for themselves. So they end up paying with their internal qualities, basically, and that's a shame. And the black sheep is the opposite. Although we're all kind of a little bit different, right? And so I always spoke out. I always like I created, like, you best believe I spoke out, and I got into a fight with my mom all the time. I got into a fight with my mom all the time, literally all the time. Okay, I was very rebellious, right? And I would never like just sit there and like be quiet. No, every freaking outing was a fight because she was disrespectful towards waiters. She would just create drama, and she loved that, and then my brother would just sit quietly. He wouldn't say anything, and in fact he would just in many cases he was always he would lie, even like he wouldn't speak the truth. He would lie just to get his way, and I would call him out on it, right? And so because of that, like, I would get a lot of hate from him too. And I would tell him, like, why are you always lying? Why don't you tell her the truth and how you feel? And so that, hence the black sheep, right? The black sheep always gets the they can't win, basically, in their family. And my dad, right, he was never like in the picture. So maybe thank God for that. I don't know, right? Because I don't really truly know my dad. I don't. I know him on the surface, and that's a shame, because he never let me in like that. Although I tried very hard. But yeah, and so anyways, thank you so much for watching, guys, and stay tuned for another video. Okay, once again, get to know other people, right? If they're your family, especially get to know them. Learn to see them with new eyes, with adult eyes, because it will help you. Okay. More often than not, people can go on for years and years and years pretending to be someone that they're not, and only reveal themselves to you later on. Okay. When they think they can do that. Okay, so yeah,